Our next speaker, and the next speaker is an author. He has a book called Understanding the Metaverse. Quite interesting examination of the ethical issues surrounding the metaverse, etc. If you've been lucky enough to sit in the front few rows, you've picked up a free copy of the book. So you want to watch. Excellent. He's Nick Rosa. He's Metaverse Strategy Lead for Accenture. He's going to be answering two questions that I'm looking forward to. What is the metaverse, and why is it important for your business? So Nick, over to you.
Thank you so much. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Nick Rosa, and I lead the strategy at the Accenture Metaverse Continuing Business Group, which is a new practice at Accenture that is delivering Metaverse end-to-end to all of our clients for enterprise and for consumer use cases. I don't see my slides here. Maybe are coming. OK. So that's a QR code with my LinkedIn. It's going to arrive at the end as well. So if you want to connect and if you want to answer, ask more questions at the end of this keynote, you can do it through this link. And also, this is my book. And that's a QR code to Amazon to buy the book. And if you are in one of the first two rows, you can get a book for free. I think that there are a couple that are still available, more than a couple. But yeah, so today we're going to talk about what is the metaverse and why it's important for business. There's a lot of confusion that is derived by the misuse of terms and by the fact that companies like Meta changed their name, and a lot of people believe that Meta is the metaverse, which is not. But let's do a step back and let's try to understand what's the situation right now of the digital landscape. We live in a digital world. So during the pandemic, we started doing more and more purchases online. I was having a very interesting conversation with a person in Southeast Asia that is running the business, the CFO of one of the largest supply chain companies in Southeast Asia. And he told me that during the pandemic in Thailand, the kind of percentage of fiat currency and credit card purchases completely swapped. Before the pandemic, fiat currencies were about 90% of all the purchases and only 10% for credit card purchases. After the pandemic, 90% are credit card and only 10% are fiat currency. You can imagine that this, plus all the other digitization of the interaction that we're having in our everyday life, like, for example, we WhatsApp to our friends and our family. We have Zoom call with our colleagues. We are living in a digital era, and we are working, most of us, still remotely, which is, from my advice, a great thing. I don't know, maybe other people miss the kind of human factor. But this is a matter of fact that the pandemic and the way that we interact changed the society and the way that we are using the digital way of communicating in order to interact with people and to run our business. The metaverse is not something that comes from nothing. The metaverse is the next evolution of the internet. The metaverse is the internet of the future. In the 90s, the internet was the internet of data. And we had websites that were no more, no less than glorified brochures. And the more interactive things that you could do was just to send an email to somebody. We had what is called the skeuomorphic era of a new medium. So the imitation of what previous kind of technologies and medium were doing with a new kind of technology. Then during the 2000s, something special happened. So we had the emergence of one of the most successful use cases, which is social networks. And social networks like, for example, Friendster, Yahoo Answers, probably some of you remember those networks, MySpace, and then Facebook, and then Instagram, and then LinkedIn, and then Twitter, and then TikTok, emerged. So emergence is when you have those use cases that are widely successful, and most of the companies jump on those use cases to create their own version of that specific use case. And then in 2007, we all became cyborg. We all have a piece of glass and metal in our pockets, and across all the next decade, we started connecting not only with other people through mobile phones, but also with our devices. So internet became the Internet of Things. We started connecting with our smart speakers, smart TVs, smart homes, and so on. And then during the pandemic, something happened with Gen Z and Gen Y, the youngest generation that are accessing 3D platform for gaming. Obviously, they were in lockdown, and the only way that they could really interact with their peers was to use those platforms that they were using for gaming to socialize. And obviously, when you socialize, you want to express yourself and your identity. And to express yourself and your identity on a visual medium like internet, you want to show off how you look. So the purchases of digital goods skyrocketed during the pandemic because we are all wearing different clothes because we want to express who we are. And it's a way to express our identity. And the same thing happened on those platforms. So we had a rise of what we call the Internet of Place and ownership. Ownership due to some of the technologies that are part of the ecosystem of technologies that create the metaverse. But let's understand what is a place. And this is valid for a physical place, but also for a digital place, like the metaverse. So a place is composed by four main things, four main elements. Space and time. So if I move an asset from this side of the desk to the other side of the podium, the person that comes after me will find it here and not there. So a space never resets. It has an arrow of time that goes straight ahead and never goes back in time. So that's why there are seasons on those metaverse platforms, like Fortnite, for example. You have people. The metaverse is a social place. The metaverse is a place where you go to socialize and meet like-minded people that have your common interests and eventually meet somebody that is interesting and become friend with this person. Probably it happened to you to go to a restaurant or a club that was completely empty. You open the door, you close the door, and you go somewhere else because obviously you don't want to be in an empty room. And obviously you don't want to be in an empty room that doesn't have even assets or items or furniture. Four white walls are not interesting. So things are part of a place. They create character to the place. They determine what the place is. And exchange. Exchange is not just from a financial standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint. I go to an exhibition in a museum because I got in exchange some personal growth in happiness, in culture, I don't know, for people that believe in the soul, in my emotional side and my soul, and so on. And the same thing is for the metaverse. It's not just commerce, the exchange. It's also about personal growth. But let's do a double click on those four topics. These are the metaverse attributes, the main metaverse attributes. The first four, actually, are the form of the metaverse, so what the users see in the metaverse. And the other ones that you can see on the right-hand side, the blue ones, are the function of the metaverse. So the form is what the users see in the metaverse, and the function is what the user can do in the metaverse. Let's analyze them one by one. The first two, it's physical place and virtual place. And it's interesting, the order. A lot of people believe that the metaverse is only about 3D platforms and virtual places. The metaverse is very much about the real world. The metaverse is not just 3D platform and virtual world. The metaverse, as per definition, is a sort of a sponge-like tissues that connect the digital realm and the real world. And the way that it connects those two realms is determined by the kind of devices that you use. You can use mobile phones to do augmented reality in the real world. You can use laptops, mobile, or even virtual reality headsets to go into the virtual world. And the great thing about the metaverse is that it's a portal that allows us to get into the digital world physically in a different degree of immersion depending by the device that you're using. If you use a laptop, it's way less immersive than if you use a virtual reality headset. And allow the digital content to bleed into the real world. So digital content can be overimposed on top of our field of vision. And the interesting thing is that when devices like augmented reality glasses will be diffused and will be socially accepted by everybody, imagine the concept of reality, how it's going to be reshaped. Right now, obviously, if we don't have our mobile phone, we feel cut out from a part of the reality that everybody lives. In the future, people will point out a digital content that maybe two people with the glasses can see and another person that without the glasses cannot see, and they can discuss about that. So there will be different degrees of reality and different kind of access to those kind of information. Spatial depth. This is important because spatial depth is what distinguishes the metaverse to the internet. The internet is 2D information. Spatial depth and 3D worlds is enabling the users to consume the information in an immersive way and in an experiential way. And the next point, creativity, is deeply connected to the experience and the experiential aspect of the metaverse. Creativity is the catalyst that creates the experience. Nobody wants to go to a place that is always the same. Nobody wants to go to a place that is not interesting. Nobody wants to a place that doesn't give an experience that can be utilitarian or can be entertainment. So it's important to create something that will provide an experience to the user that are going to that specific place. Otherwise, you're going to have an empty room. We have identity. Identity, as I said before, is important from, obviously, a self-expression point of view. People want to be seen and understood and broadcast who they are on the metaverse. And that's why it's one of the drivers of the economy of the metaverse. But also is important from an accountability point of view. And I'm writing about this in my book. We had a lot of problems that derived from the rise of social networks and social media. One of those problems was the fact that a lot of users that were on those social networks felt unaccountable for most of their action, and they could do wild things, spreading misinformation, hate speech, and so on. In the metaverse, it will be extremely important to create standards for digital identity to make people accountable for their unsocial behavior on those platforms. Community. Community is basically what drives people to the metaverse. The metaverse is a social place. People go to Nike Land on Roblox because they're a fan of a specific sport or a specific brand or a specific player that is sponsored by Nike. Or they go to Snoop Dogg Land because they like R&B, or they like the music that Snoop Dogg does, or they like to smoke weed. But basically, it's a place where you find like-minded people that have common interest in what you like. Virtual value, products, and market structure. These are the economy of the metaverse. So the virtual value is created by the digital scarcity that is derived by a technology that probably most of you have heard about, which is blockchain, and a specific subset of that technology that is an artifact called non-fungible token. What is a non-fungible token? Non-fungible token is a smart contract that enables the transaction of assets that can be digital or physical, connected through that digital contract between two people without the need of trust in between. Imagine sending money from somebody on the other side of the world without the need of having banks in between that will check what you do. Same thing, imagine being able to sell a car or a house without the middleman in between. How much money you could save, for example, in stamp duty if you do something like this. But it's not just that. The kind of advantage of the smart contracts is that they can be tied to physical object and virtual object. Virtual object, of course, digital clothing, avatars, virtual sneakers, painted images. Those are some of the initial digital primitives of the technology. So the first use cases, the use case that are not that transformational. The real transformational use case arises when, for example, companies like automotive companies can tap into untapped markets, like, for example, second-hand market for cars. Imagine I'm going to buy a car from BMW, for example, and instead of buying a physical car and a physical key, I buy an NFT that is connected to the ignition of a physical car. I purchase that NFT that allows me the access to that particular car. When I'm going to sell that car, I'm not going to sell the car itself. I'm going to sell that NFT that is connected to the car. I'm going to do a direct transaction to the person that is buying the car, but that NFT also is going to be enriched with data and information about the usage of the car. The mileage of the car, the accidents that the car had, the kind of spare parts that have been used in order to fix the car, when the car has been serviced, and so on. So the person that purchased the car can make an informed decision to buy a car, the person that sells the car doesn't have a middleman in between that eventually going to take some percentage of the revenue of the transaction, and BMW can get a slice of that sale because obviously they're providing the service of enriching the data of that NFT. And they can capitalize on all of those sales of the cars. And this is for an asset that depreciates with time. Imagine what could happen, for example, in the real estate market. Probably some of you have bought a house and they know how painful it is to pay that stamp duty. And the stamp duty is basically legal fees of somebody checking on a registry who's the owner of that house and where that house has to go to. Imagine doing this instantly without any middleman in between. And market structure. Market structure is basically how the economy of the metaverse works and has three kinds of flavors. One is top-down, which is basically Gucci drops a Gucci bag into Roblox and makes the user of Roblox pay $4,000 to have that unique collectible piece. Top-down. Big brands doing commerce in the metaverse. Bottom-up. Creators that are the inhabitants of those platforms that are creative and entrepreneurial create assets and services that are sold on those platforms, doing also social media promotion on platforms like, for example, Discord, like Telegram, like Reddit, like TikTok, all those ancillary platforms that serve as a marketing promotion tool for those services and assets that they're selling. And the interesting thing is that a lot of kids right now are making a lot of money on platforms like Roblox, selling their worlds and their assets. And if you think about it, for the first time in the history of humanity, the possibility of making a living and a good wage is independent by your postcode of birth. Because you create commerce on those platforms if you have a good idea, if you're in Australia, if you're in Vietnam, if you're in Alaska, if you're wherever you are. And then there's the third approach, which is probably the most interesting one, which is what Coca-Cola has done. So Coca-Cola dropped an NFT that is a smart contract, as we said, connected with some terms and conditions of usage. So if those terms and conditions in the smart contract are not met, Coca-Cola revokes the NFT, and anything connected to that NFT falls from the ledger and is unavailable. And they connected the most valuable thing that they have after the formula of their beverage, which is their brand. They dropped the logo of Coca-Cola as an NFT into a community of creators. And they allow creators to do whatever they wanted with the logo, obviously with exception, connected to those terms and conditions, hate speech, political message, violence, and so on. Creators started creating products and services with the Coca-Cola logo, like a Coca-Cola club, Coca-Cola yacht, a Coca-Cola car, Coca-Cola clothing line, digital clothing line, and so on. And Coca-Cola got a cut of the money, and the creators got a cut of the money. Obviously, 98% of those products and services maybe are not great, but maybe there's that 1 or 2% of those products that emerge, become successful, and this is a new way for companies and brands to create products and services that were unthinkable before. And portability and persistency. Persistency is what we talked about before, is that arrow of time, that continuity of the story that never resets. Portability is the promised land of the metaverse boom. Right now, when you purchase an asset on one of those platforms, Roblox, Decentraland, and so on, you cannot take those assets outside those platforms, nor in the real world with augmented reality. Imagine like buying a car in Edinburgh, and you could drive that car only there, only here in Edinburgh. You cannot go anywhere, you cannot go to London, you cannot go anywhere. Imagine what is going to happen instead when those highways to bring assets from one platform to the other will be open. Global commerce. Obviously, there are some challenges that are related to governance, to financial modeling, and also technological. And there are consortia right now that are working on those challenges, like, for example, the Kronos Group from a technological standpoint, the Open Metaverse Consortium from a business standpoint, and the World Economic Forum from a governance standpoint. So why there is one metaverse and not the metaverses as a lot of people talk about. The metaverse is the internet. There are no such thing as the internets, and is an infrastructure. Is deep. And that's why it's such a great opportunity for a lot of companies right now. The metaverse has a lot of layers, and considering metaverse only the front end is like considering the internet only a website. So companies like, for example, telecommunication companies, companies that are connected to digital identity, companies that are connected to 3D worlds, companies that are connected to cloud services and bare-bone metal and silicon and chips are involved in the creation of this infrastructure that is a vision, is a moonshot. Obviously, right now, we don't have this massively hyperscale interconnected world that allows millions of users at the same time and also gives you the possibility of getting digital content into the real world. A lot of innovation is required in order to get this vision materialized. And that's why this is a big opportunity. This is an estimate of JP Morgan that says that by 2024, the metaverse is going to be valuable about $800 billion. Not just digital goods, all the services that are connected to the metaverse. All the services that are in that stack that I showed before. But let's see what the metaverse is. This is a view of the metaverse today. Some of the numbers are a little bit old, like the first one, but the rest are pretty much up to date. 10.7 billion users in Q3 2021. This is our revenue that are related to NFT sales on multiple platforms. I know that, for example, OpenSea, which is one of the platforms that is selling NFT, has been able to get something like 5 billion in revenues only in Q1 2022, and is only one platform. 54 million unique users on Roblox. Imagine that's one of the busiest shopping districts in Europe. We have Corso Vittorio Emanuele in Milan. Corso Vittorio Emanuele in Milan, and you know, I'm Italian, of course. I have to make an Italian example. Has 23 million visitors per year. 54 million users per day is a big number, is a lot of eyeballs. Are you going to be able to convert all of those users into customers? Maybe not, but it's a huge number. And it's so big that it's impossible to ignore right now for brands and for, obviously, people that are operating in the metaverse business. 200 million users every day engage in Snapchat augmented reality filters. Obviously, you have also the ones that are on Instagram, the other ones that are on all the other platforms. This means that augmented reality is no more an emerging technology. It's very much into our life. Millions of people, good for them, I don't really like the music, assisted the Ariana Grande concert. Many more, the Travis Scott one on Fortnite. And $4,000 have been spent on a virtual Gucci bag on Roblox, which is way more than a normal Gucci bag in real life. So, is the metaverse Web 3, Web 3.0? There's a lot of confusion. So let's make it clear. The metaverse is not Web 3. The metaverse can be Web 3, but is not Web 3. Web 3 is the definition of the decentralized internet that has been made in 2014 by one of the Ethereum co-founders to define the decentralized internet, an internet that operates using blockchain and decentralized technology. The metaverse is a massively interconnected, hyperscaled 3D world that allows people to go from a world to another and bring their assets from one world to another and currency from one world to another and also into the real world. Some platforms are using this technology, like, for example, Decentraland and Fortnite, with some advantages. They can mint NFT, they can use standard cryptocurrencies, and so on. Other platforms, like, for example, Fortnite, Horizon Worlds, Roblox, they don't use blockchain technology. And this is something that is going to go on for a very long time. Why? The decentralized way determines the fact that the owners of the land are the ones that basically steer the direction of the company. Decentraland is a decentralized autonomous organization, which is a different way of organizing a company that allows the users that are owning the land on that platform to vote the direction of this decentralized autonomous organization in equal proportion to the amount of land that they owned. It's direct democracy. Obviously, Mark Zuckerberg, I don't think that he's ever going to give up his power on their platform. So it's very much like that companies, because of governance, because of legacy systems, because of legislation, because of regulation, there are countries where blockchain is banned, there are countries where cryptocurrencies are banned, will never be able to embrace this kind of technology. So the centralized and decentralized world of the metaverse, the way of doing metaverse, will coexist for a very long time. And it's important, because it's important to understand that the interconnectivity standard will have to be created in order to create this interconnected 3D, massively hyperscaled world that we dream of. The metaverse also is not VR. The metaverse is not AR. The metaverse is all the platforms. Right now, the majority of people that access those platforms are accessing those platforms from mobile phones, from laptops, from video game console. In the future, obviously, we're going to have more and more people that will want to immerse themselves into virtual worlds completely. The more that the ergonomics of those virtual reality headsets will get better and better, and the new MetaQuest Pro is actually quite good. It's a massive step forward, a better comfort for the user, but we're not there yet. With the glasses, we are not even remotely there. So why this matter for business? This is important for business because there are multiple use cases that can be applied using metaverse technology. And this is just a fraction of what's possible. These are the digital primitives that I was talking about. We are literally scratching the surface. We are in the Internet of Data era. The emergent use cases will arrive probably in about 3 to 5 years from now. It's possible to have a presence in popular virtual places, like, for example, what Roblox and Snoop Dogg are doing, or Gucci is doing with Gucci Land, Nike Land, and Roblox Land, and Snoop Dogg Land. It's possible to connect with those audiences and engage to present new products and services and to make their brands visible, also selling products and items that make the user ambassador of the brand outside Roblox, the Nike Land and Gucci Land and Snoop Dogg Land. It's possible to engage with the communities of creators. This is the example of Coca-Cola. It's possible to create new products and services. This is a beautiful example of what L'Oreal, which is an incredible company, super innovative, really at the forefront of innovation, has done during the pandemic. They created a camera filter, paid for, that was giving augmented reality makeup to everybody that wanted to do video calls without putting on makeup in the morning, obviously connected to the real-life product that you could purchase directly from the app. And this is a kind of product and service that was unthinkable 10 years ago. And connect to experiences, and not just to promote the concert. Imagine those unsexy brands like, for example, insurance company or banks. What are they going to do on the metaverse? How are they going to attract people? They can make their logo visible and raise their brand awareness through sponsored events, so that the people that will go to the next Travis Scott concert or Ariana Grande concert will wear a t-shirt with the Ariana Grande face and the American Express logo. And those are people that are teenagers and about to open their first bank account, or maybe get their first credit card. And last but not least is what we are doing at Accenture, doing training and productivity in the metaverse. We distributed 60,000 headsets at Accenture, but we're going to talk about it in a second. I'm a little bit over. I hope it's okay. These are some of the business value that are enabled by the metaverse for the enterprise. The first one, we're going to have a double click on the next slide. but all the other ones are super important as well. This one, big dollar saving, is probably the most important one. I had a conversation with one of our clients that is an energy client producing windmills for clean energy. And their problem was that they produce a new model of their windmill every 2 years. Every 2 years, they double the watts of their windmill production. And in order to train their fleet of engineers to maintain those windmills, we're talking about 1,500 people, they had to create a dummy asset that costed about 1.5 million, and they could train only 4 engineers per day on that asset. A big, massive asset that needs a room like this one in order to be created and used. They came to us, they said, this is unsustainable for us now. We want to do everything in a digital way. And the advantages are, first, you don't have to have a physical space to host the asset. You don't have to build the asset. You don't have to keep assets that are usually in production unproductive in order to train your people. You don't need trainers. You can train everybody at the same time. And the great thing is that you can understand the proficiency of your workforce to better plan your production line. Production lines are complex to plan because you need to understand when your workforce is X% proficient in order to start the production. With this kind of technology, you can have objective insight about your productivity. Muscle memory, which is the first, it's very interesting. And why is important? It's important because we are evolved primates. We evolved from chimps, and our brain has been hardwired from millions of years of evolution to remember where is the closest source of food, where is the closest shelter, where are our mates, and so on. So this is the Edgar Dale cone of experience, also known as cone of learning. Edgar Dale is a university professor from Philadelphia University. He assessed that after 2 weeks, we tend to remember only 10% of what we read, 50% of what we say and what we do, which is basically a YouTube video or a normal e-learning class. And YouTube right now is the largest repository of knowledge in the world. Half of the searches that are done every day on YouTube are how-to videos. And up to 90% of what we do directly. So experiential learning can have a meaningful impact in memory retention. We identified 4 main flavors of Metaverse for the enterprise that can be very useful for our clients. This is the first one. This is an example of high voltage cabinet training that we created for one of our clients. Is a dexterity training, so a training to train people how to use their hands in specific kind of situation, their body, their hands, and their spatial awareness. The interesting thing about this application is that it's also multi-user. So multiple people can get into this application and have classroom-based scenario training. Or you can have a trainer and multiple trainee that can eventually do different runs on how to perform and better improve their performance on doing maintenance of that particular kind of asset. This is the second kind of training, which is something that we are doing internally at Accenture. Soft skills training. And we are doing it for presentation training, call center training, emotional intelligence, diversity and inclusion. One of the beautiful use cases, and it's not this video, is that we created an app. This is what we are doing internally at Accenture. This is the training for how to provide effective feedback. What we did, for example, for the state of Indiana was to create a training to train case workers on how to perform interviews with parents that are suspected of abusing their children. You can imagine how critical is that kind of training and how important it is to make a really good informed decision about the future of those children. The interesting thing is that once we launched that training, after a few months, we realized that 70% of the children that were sent to foster care were Black. So we had to also include another module that was about diversity and inclusion. And we deployed this so successfully that now we're expanding the program to other 5 states in the United States. This is what we're doing internally at Accenture. I'll show you the video and I'll stop talking.
Welcome to One Accenture Park, Accenture's new joiner home in the Metaverse. Today, some of our newest employees are embarking on a quarterly learning adventure called Accenture Launch. The journey begins aboard Skillship 1 as Captain Rose and Flight Specialist Roland prepare the ship for launch. During this adventure, 2 worlds will be visited, Station 365 and the Spotlight. When new joiners arrive at Station 365, they connect with others from around the world in the core. There's a lot to explore, and Station 365 has many surprises to discover along the way. Entering the gallery, new joiners are introduced to one of this quarter's learning topics, uncovering its value. In the dome, they're immersed visually in another new topic.
Headset at Accenture, 60,000, 24,000 to the new joiners. And since the end of 2020 until now, we got more than 164,000 people onboarded on that platform. 24,000 with VR headset, the remaining one using laptops. The other remaining headsets have been distributed to the leadership and the management for the next use case. So we've seen hard skills, soft skills training, onboarding, and now we're going to see productivity and what we are doing with Microsoft that we announced recently at Microsoft Ignite.
Thanks, Satya, and hi, everyone. It's great to be here.
Thanks for having us, and welcome to Accenture's Nth Floor.
At Accenture, we have over 624,000 people serving clients in 120 countries. And critical to our ability to work seamlessly together is Microsoft Teams. We have turned our focus away from spaces and places to creating what we call omni-connected experiences, where our people can participate, contribute, and feel like they belong regardless of where they're working.
So it's been awesome to see Mesh for Microsoft Teams come together to enable those experiences.
And as Satya said, it's so important to bring the human connection into our digital world. We're using this technology for meetings and learning, team get-togethers, and it's helped us really transform our new joiner experience. And you'll see I've joined this meeting today using my avatar. We love this new feature because it gives everyone the flexibility and choice to show up in ways they are most comfortable. And for me, not having to be on camera all day has really helped with my energy and engagement.
And even though you're not joining on camera, it feels natural as I can see your facial expressions, gestures, and even live reactions. We've also created an incredible immersive space that's now seamlessly accessible directly through Teams. Why don't we go check it out?
Here we are, Jason, and your avatar looks awesome. Something that I really like is how freely you can move around and have face-to-face conversations.
Telling me that we are up with time. Thank you so much. We're going to open for some questions now. Thank you.
Actually, we're not going to open for some questions now because we don't know. We discussed this in advance. There was a possibility Nick was going to overrun on this, so that's fine. I thought you would want to see the content rather than that. If you have a question for Nick, can I ask that you grab him immediately after this and ask the question? I have very mixed feelings about some of that, but maybe that's because I'm an old fart. I don't know. I was looking at some of your faces while it was actually playing out at the same time, and I suspect I'm not alone. But can I ask you to thank Nick Rosa one more time, please? Thank you very much. Thank you very much.